In accordance with the Soviet-Nazi Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact of August 23, 1939, the Red Army invaded Poland on September 17, 1939, after the Nazi invasion on September 1, 1939. On 30 November the Red Army also attacked Finland, in the Winter War of 1939–1940. By autumn 1940, after conquering its portion of Poland, Nazi Germany shared an extensive border with USSR, with whom it remained neutrally bound by their non-aggression pact and trade agreements. Another consequence of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was the Soviet occupation of Bessarabia and northern Bukovina, carried out by the Southern Front in June to July 1940, and the Soviet occupation of the Baltic states, 1940. These conquests also added to the border the Soviet Union shared with Nazi-controlled areas. For Adolf Hitler, the circumstance was no dilemma, because the Drang nach Osten, drive towards the east, policy secretly remained in force, culminating on December 18, 1940 with Directive No. 21, Operation Barbarossa, approved on February 3, 1941, and scheduled for mid-May 1941. When Germany invaded the Soviet Union in June 1941, in Operation Barbarossa, the Red Army's ground forces had 303 divisions and 22 separate brigades, 5.5 million soldiers, including 166 divisions and brigades, 2.6 million, garrisoned in the western military districts. The Axis forces deployed on the Eastern Front consisted of 181 divisions and 18 brigades, 3 million soldiers. Three fronts, the Northwestern, Western, and Southwestern, conducted the defense of the western borders of the USSR. In the first weeks of the Great Patriotic War, the Wehrmacht defeated many Red Army units. The Red Army lost millions of men as prisoners and lost much of its pre-war materiel. Stalin increased mobilization, and by August 1, 1941, despite 46 divisions lost in combat, the Red Army's strength was 401 divisions. The Soviet forces were apparently unprepared despite numerous warnings from a variety of sources. They suffered much damage in the field because of mediocre officers, partial mobilization, and an incomplete reorganization. The hasty pre-war forces expansion and the overpromotion of inexperienced officers, owing to the purging of experienced officers, favored the Wehrmacht in combat. The Axis's numeric superiority rendered the combatants' divisional strength approximately equal. A generation of Soviet commanders, notably Georgy Zhukov, learned from the defeats, 54, and Soviet victories in the Battle of Moscow, at Stalingrad, Kursk, and later in Operation Bagration proved decisive. In 1941, the Soviet government raised the bloodied Red Army's esprit de corps with propaganda stressing the defense of motherland and nation, employing historic exemplars of Russian courage and bravery against foreign aggressors. The anti-Nazi Great Patriotic War was conflated with the Patriotic War of 1812 against Napoleon, and historical Russian military heroes, such as Alexander Nevsky and Mikhail Kutuzov, appeared. Repression of the Russian Orthodox Church temporarily ceased, and priests revived the tradition of blessing arms before battle. To encourage the initiative of Red Army commanders, the CPSU temporarily abolished political commissars, reintroduced formal military ranks and decorations, and introduced the Guards unit concept. Exceptionally heroic or high-performing units earned the Guards title, for example 1st Guards Special Rifle Corps, 6th Guards Tank Army, an elite designation denoting superior training, materiel, and pay. Punishment also was used. Slackers, malingerers, those avoiding combat with self-inflicted wounds, cowards, thieves, and deserters were disciplined with beatings, demotions, undesirable/dangerous duties, and summary execution by NKVD punitive detachments. At the same time, the Ossipist, NKVD military counterintelligence officers, became a key Red Army figure with the power to condemn to death and to spare the life of any soldier and, almost any, officer of the unit to which he was attached. In 1942, Stalin established the penal battalions composed of Gulag inmates, Soviet POWs, disgraced soldiers, and deserters, for hazardous frontline duty as tramplers clearing Nazi minefields, etc. Given the dangers, the maximum sentence was 3 months. Likewise, the Soviet treatment of Red Army personnel captured by the Wehrmacht was especially harsh. Per a 1941 Stalin directive, Red Army officers and soldiers were to fight to the last rather than surrender. Stalin stated, "There are no Soviet prisoners of war, only traitors." 59. During and after World War II, freed POWs went to special filtration camps. Of these, by 1944, more than 90% were cleared, and about 8% were arrested or condemned to serve in penal battalions. In 1944, they were sent directly to reserve military formations to be cleared by the NKVD. Further, in 1945, about 100 filtration camps were set for repatriated POWs and other displaced persons, which processed more than 4 million people. By 1946, 80% civilians and 20% of POWs were freed, 5% of civilians and 43% of POWs were redrafted, 10% of civilians and 22% of POWs were sent to labor battalions, and 2% of civilians and 15% of the POWs, 226,127 out of 1,539,475 total, were transferred to the Gulag. During the Great Patriotic War, the Red Army conscripted 29,574,900 men in addition to the 4,826,907 in service at the beginning of the war. Of this total of 34,401,807, it lost 6,329,600 killed in action, KIA, 555,400 deaths by disease and 4,559,000 missing in action, MIA, most captured. Of these 11,444,000, however, 939,700 rejoined the ranks in the subsequently liberated Soviet territory, and a further 1,836,000 returned from German captivity. Thus the grand total of losses amounted to 8,668,400. 6162. This is the official total dead, but other estimates give the number of total dead up to almost 11 million men, including 7.7 million killed or missing in action and 2.6 million POW dead, out of 5.2 million total POWs, plus 400,000 paramilitary and Soviet partisan losses. The majority of the losses, excluding POWs, were ethnic Russians, 5,756,000, followed by ethnic Ukrainians, 1,377,400. However, as many as 8 million of the 34 million mobilized were non-Slavic minority soldiers, and around 45 divisions formed from national minorities served from 1941 to 1943. The German losses on the Eastern Front consisted of an estimated 3,604,800 Kia/MIA within the 1937 borders plus 900,000 ethnic Germans and Austrians outside the 1937 border. Included in these numbers are men listed as missing in action or unaccounted for after the war, and 3,576,300 men reported captured, total 8,081,100. The losses of the German satellites on the Eastern Front approximated 668,163 Kia/MIA and 799,982 captured, total 1,468,145. Of these 9,549,245, the Soviets released 3,572,600 from captivity after the war. Thus the grand total of the Axis losses came to an estimated 5,976,645. 65 page needed. Regarding prisoners of war, both sides captured large numbers and had many die in captivity. One recent British figure says 3.6 of 6 million Soviet POWs died in German camps, while 300,000 of 3 million German POWs died in Soviet hands.